IRIX guy here. Now, several of you have asked, what's your green screen setup? How do you achieve, and I've had a lot of people say it's very convincing, chroma key, also known as green screen results. So within this video, I'm going to step you through step by step what my setup is and how I utilize the various components. Now check the link within this video's description. You'll be able to find all of this equipment online, as well as some green screen kits that I don't use because I just painted my wall. Obviously, if you're in a rental, maybe you don't have a wall that you would want to paint what many people refer to as an obnoxious color. There's other options available. So let's get started here. The only light that I have on currently is the light above, but you can see I've got a bulb there, 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 and there. And those bulbs are strategically placed. They're placed close together because I wanted to add a lot of high quality lighting to this room. I found a licensed yet affordable electrician, came in and took care of that for me. Obviously something that you would want to use a licensed electrician because electricity is super dangerous. So I had those set up. You can check the link within this video's description to find the type of LED bulbs that I use because the color is super important. The next thing I have, you can see these two lamps. Now they're not currently on, but I'm about to turn them on. I'll turn this one on. Boom. You can see now the green wall is more lit. And now I'm going to turn on the second one. Pow. So now I got both the lights on. Now what you'll notice, the wall, especially in the middle, you can see over there where the light's not hitting, it's somewhat darker. This is very well lit. To think about green screening in its most simplistic form, the way to visualize it, the way that I learned to visualize it, is what you're trying to do is create something that's just super bright, consistently lit, and something that's not the same color as yourself or the clothing that you're wearing. So if I stepped in front of this screen with this same color of green on, I would disappear. It wouldn't be a convincing green screen effect. But like me right now, I'm wearing bright red. So it's a completely different color. This is going to take us to the next part of this tutorial. You can see this right here. This is what I use for IRIX Guys live show and also Epic Drone Show Live. So if I want to be seated and I want to create a convincing green screen effect for my live broadcast, see, this will give you an idea of the perspective. All they're going to see is a nice, what seems to be leather, but it's actually faux leather chair, and then whatever mystery background I want to place back there, whether it's a still photo, a video, or a combination of both, or nothing at all, just a green wall. And you're probably wondering, well, what's that other large chair, and what's that thing sticking on top of it? Well, that thing sitting on top of it is called a didgeridoo, and it's actually strategically placed because being a budget operation, again, I'm an independent YouTube channel. I'm not part of a multi-channel network. I try to get the best stuff I can, but obviously I always keep budget in mind. Why spend if one doesn't have to spend more? If I can achieve what I feel, well, not what I feel, but what y'all feel are quality results on a budget, I'm going to do it. So here's what I did. This is my calibration tool. So I sit this didgeridoo right here in the chair, and what you'll see when I step back here behind the didgeridoo in the chair, I'm going to move the chair and the didgeridoo out of the way because all that it was needed for was calibration. So now what I'm going to do is stand right where the didgeridoo was, and now when I look at the screen over there, you can see the screen, my field monitor is plugged into my camera. You can see that I'm off to the edge. My head has a very minimal amount of space. I'm very well framed. The rule of thirds, if you're not familiar with that. And stay tuned for another video, I'll talk about that more. It's a matter of the look that you want to give your video. The short answer is that typically the subject on camera probably doesn't want to be in the middle of the frame. They probably want to be to one side or the other. So for my setup, I prefer to stand at this side, right where the didgeridoo was. Now, why am I standing where the didgeridoo was? Well, I use manual focus. I don't use autofocus cameras anymore. If you pick up your typical camcorder or maybe smartphone, it's probably going to use autofocus. Now, that's good for beginners. I started with autofocus too. But what I found is that manual focus is the way to go. Because if you use autofocus, you're typically going to get what's referred to as focus breathing, and it makes the video less than perfect. So when you're using manual focus, think of focus as distance from camera lens to you. In this case, it was distance from camera lens to the didgeridoo. So I achieved what I feel is perfect focus upon the didgeridoo, and now since I'm standing where the didgeridoo was, I should be somewhat perfectly focused. So that's that explanation. Now you're probably wondering, well, what's this and what's that? Why don't you have a light in front of you? We're going to get to that in a minute. The first thing I want to do is point out my distance from the wall. So I'm going to put my left foot there where the didgeridoo was. I'm a size 12. So I got one size 12, two size 12. So approximately 2 feet from the green screen wall. So what we're going to do next, now that we have these lights are for the sole purpose of lighting the green screen to make it very vibrant. The lights above, they add to the light in the overall light in the space in my studio. This light is going to be what's referred to as a key, K-E-Y light. So we're going to turn it on. It does have a dimming feature, but what I found are the perfect settings for my environment. So now, with your key light lit, the light in front of you, doesn't have to be directly in front of you, with your lights lighting your green screen, your lights overhead, and your camera perfectly focused, as perfectly as you can make it, when you look in your viewfinder now, and I'm using that viewfinder because a camera that I use doesn't have a screen that'll flip forward, which is fine because the camera is rock solid quality. But see, now you can see me in the frame, and I'm going to step closer, and obviously I'll go out of focus because I'm getting close. But you can see that green wall back there. Just look at that perfect green. You just see bright green. So you see me with red shirt and face, or a kind of sunburned face and a red shirt. But the background is just super bright green. The background's super bright green because of these lights. And also the overheads are helping as well. I'm well lit because of the key light. So that's lighting the subject. That's lighting me. The other lights beside me are lighting the green screen. The lights overhead, up above. I'm losing the English language here. They're lighting the overall environment. So the objective is to create a perfectly bright and green background area with minimal or no shadows, because shadows will throw off the chroma key effect. It'll make it look less than perfect. So play with your lighting adjustment. You notice that my key light's not directly in front of me. The camera's directly in front of me. But play with your environment and see what works best. And again, your objective is number one, and it can get confusing if you try to do it in a different sequence. But number one, to get quality lights installed in your studio. Again, I used an electrician, licensed electrician, that was affordable and safe to install my overhead lights. That's step number one. Step number two should be getting your lights beside your green screen. And again, check the link within this video's description. You can find all of this equipment there. And then once you do that, and you feel that you've illuminated your green wall, it's very bright, the final step is to put your key light, adjust the brightness as necessary, and make yourself, your face, your body optimally lit while not projecting a shadow upon your green screen. So you can see it in this little, if you maximize your screen, you can see how green that is around me, no shadows. And again, I'm approximately 2 feet from the wall, but the way I've got everything set up with a 50mm lens on my camera, my head is almost at the top of the frame. So for the look I'm going for face on video, I think it looks perfect. And that's my opinion. And again, you can see it's a manual focus lens, high-end optics. And I'll mic, you notice I don't have an external mic on here. And that's because when I'm doing a green screen, I use a lavalier mic. And you can find that mic within this video's description as well. But that, a lot of times if you're using an on-camera mic, the quality's not as good. And if you're using a shotgun mic, an external mic on the camera, the echo from the wall, if you're using a green screen wall like I am, can make the effect less convincing. So a lavalier mic is often the optimal choice. So, you know, this will get you going in a nutshell. It doesn't have to be that difficult. You know, this setup was the product of hundreds of hours of trial and error. So, you know, don't try once and get frustrated. What I recommend doing is, you know, again, setting it up in this sequence like I mentioned. Again, check the link within this video's description. You can find all the equipment there. But, you know, just playing with your environment. Maybe record a few clips, maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. Download them to your computer. Look at the lighting. Okay, it's too dim, it's too bright. There's shadows. Then record again. Use gaffer's tape to put it on your floor. You know, mark where your camera was. Mark where it was moved to. And in that way, you can continue to tweak the setup for your environment until you get the lighting nailed. And until you have your own, what I refer to as a low-budget studio with very high-end visual effects. So, you know, it's doable. And, you know, be aware of outside light sources. There's a window. So obviously, if I'm filming during daylight hours, the brightness of my lights and possibly the positioning of my lights may be different than it would be if it was dark and there was no light coming in through the window. One thing you can do if you've got a window is you can get these blackout things. And again, I'll list those within this video's description as well. But you can basically just black out your window so that you can eliminate that if you do a lot of filming at different times of the day and night. Maybe that's just a variable you want to throw out so you don't have to make micro adjustments each time before you film. Again, something else I recommend, you know, if you're taking your tripods in the field with you, they don't stay permanently positioned in your studio, use that gaffer tape and mark where it goes. Because when you go from field to studio and you want to set up quickly and film, it's so much more convenient when you've got everything marked. Okay, tripod leg 1, 2, and 3 here. Here's the height. If you're using manual focus, take note of the setup. Maybe take a photo of your aperture and your focus range so you know exactly where it was. Mark the front of your feet so you know exactly where you stood. And you can make it to where if you want to keep your costs down and not have equipment that's dedicated for the studio and dedicated for the field, it's a matter of going from field to studio and not having all that lag time. And that's important, especially if you produce a lot of videos. One thing I haven't mentioned within this video is that ring. Now that's for a different purpose. I don't necessarily use it for green screening, although one could. I prefer this key light, but that is a very powerful tool, and we're going to discuss the ring light in some separate videos. So I think I've gone through everything. I think I've covered everything here. Again, I'm an independent YouTube channel, not part of a network. You know, I don't have those big marketing dollars coming my way to make magic happen. So I make magic happen on a budget. And, you know, you can too. You know, again, check the link within this video's description. You can find all the equipment that I use. And again, don't expect to just plug everything in and be golden. I mean, this is a trial and error process. Especially if you want to achieve beyond acceptable results, this is a trial and error process. So, you know, don't plug it in for the first time and become frustrated. For example, pain point I once had, light switches. You know, you got a green wall, well, that switch is going to appear in whatever background you got. Make adjustments. See, like I did with my webcam right there. See, I've got it positioned when I'm doing IRIX Guys live show or Epic Drone Show to where it simply shows a chair in the background. Very convincing. Drop me a line with any questions you may have. Best way to get me is facebook.com/IRIXGuy. And again, check the link within this video's description to find all the equipment. And I'll post a lot of other tutorial content within this video's description as well. I mean, I don't, these, a lot of people say, oh man, those are trade secrets. Why are you sharing them, bro? Well, they are trade secrets, but it's something I learned and I want to share with the world. And it's hopefully of value. So drop me a question, drop me a line if you have any questions, and be sure to subscribe. YouTube.com/IRIXGuy. Thanks for watching, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, IRIX Guy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.